welcome back to the hashtag IBMI Everywhere show. Thank you, Harold, so much for joining today.
Absolutely. It's great to be here, Josh.
Yeah, thank you
Really
so
looking forward
much.
to having a conversation.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be fun. We first met out in Navigate in Pittsburgh, and there's a lot to talk about. Where I want to go with the conversation is I want to hear a little bit about your background, and also hear some of your advice for the future generation of IBMIers, but
Sure.
also the future of the platform is and where you think it's going. So why don't we get started? Let's hear a little bit of how
All
you
right.
got started in the IBMI space, and I think that we'll have a wonderful conversation.
I started out in the military, as people do. That was kind of my college. Got out of the military, and it's called involuntary separation. No matter how you get out, it was an honorable discharge, of course. Went to the unemployment office after a couple weeks, and they said, "Well, we can get you unemployment, but you don't mind wearing a tie, do you?" And I was like, "Well, I've been wearing a uniform for years at this point, so no." They sent me to one of the best companies in the 1980s and 1990s to work for automatic data processing. Great company. I worked in their dispatch center. From there, I got an exposure to, at that time, the AS400. Their Easy Pay product had disparate offices all across the country rather. I got my exposure to the AS400, kind of clicking on the green screen back in the early 90s, and did that for 3 years. A position opened up in their computer room, so I went in and became their operator. Um, it was interesting because we did the RISC to CISC or CISC to RISC at that time, and got to see the guts of the thing. My hardware CE came out and he's explaining everything. And this is just some grunt who's been working on a computer system. But learning more and more about the platform, that carried me right up until the year 2000. We went through the whole Y2K thing. It was a non-starter, which was nice. And at that time, there were some consolidations, there was some change in the market space. They changed their network over, so they were able to centralize some things. And my director at the time said, geez, things are coming down the pike. I started looking around, came to a buffet here at Mohegan Sun with my wife, and I said, geez, this place is huge. They must have an AS400 someplace running this, and put in my resume. And as fate would have it, they had just unboxed 170, just a little development machine, but they had some big, hairy, audacious goals. And what they wanted to do was they wanted to convert purchasing, human resources, the casino itself to go live on the software. And then they're in the process of building a hotel, and they wanted their hotel software to be on it too. So the four core applications to the entire business. Got hired here at Mohegan Sun. We had some challenges getting stuff up and running. Didn't know IBMI from a hole in the wall, and I was the AS400 guy. So it was interesting. They brought some other folks on who were IBMI centric, and we all glommed together like, "Oh my God, these people don't know anything. How are we going to get them in the know?" So fast forward 25 years later, I'm still here. It's a great company to work for, greatly appreciative of all the opportunities they've given us. And the scope and breadth of what I've seen in the 30 plus years on the platform is just amazing. So that's kind of where I've come from. Moving forward on the platform, your lead-in question, I could talk for quite a while on your lead-in question there.
Now, I have a couple questions for you
Yeah, hit me,
here.
hit me.
And yeah, I think that one of the questions for you is you just mentioned that at the end there's a lot here,
Yeah,
which is that talking about that IBMI community. And I think it's unique, specifically just the way that we get together and you have that Lysug bag in the back over there.
that's
Thanks,
it.
Steve Wilk,
That's
for
it.
what you do for the community. And maybe you could share a little bit about your experience with the IBMI community.
So don't want to say it as harshly as it's going to sound. The IBMI is the box everybody loves to hate. So when all the IBMI professionals get together, we're all kind of like, yeah, I love the box too. It's awesome. Look at this and look at that. And we're all kind of showing off. It's a unique community because when you get the community together, everyone is commiserating. Everyone is kind of, oh yeah, I've seen that happen. And whether you're on Reddit, whether you're on YouTube, it's all about the community getting together and kind of moving the needle forward. And it's not just about, the stock price for IBM or anything like that. It's not a real niche. There's a lot of IBMIs in a closet here, and oh, it does XYZ there. And just like when I came here to Mohegan Sun, I figured, maybe it's running, maybe it's running the salad bar or something. Nope, it's running everything.
I think it is very true. And that it's like this kind of like the most hated thing in the entire IT world. Yet, why do you think that it is?
It's easy to rag on, right? Because a lot of shops, if they don't have a herald, right? If they don't have somebody who's been kicking around the place for decades, it's that box that everyone's like, well, I don't know what to do with that thing. I should be patching it, but I can't just go out and get the patches. I have to do this PTF process. And I think it's kind of the fact that it's so different until you start looking at what like Jesse Gorzinski's doing with the open source stuff. And then, you have users, you have script kiddies coming right out of college that are like, I don't care what I'm on. Look at me, I'm using R. 10 years ago, if you had said we'd have a language like R on the IBM I, people would be like, whoa, easy there, spaceman. That's open source stuff. But now it's all right there. And that I is really, it's integrated. And what could really start standing for is, I don't care what system I'm on. I've got open source and I'm happy. Because really that's where I think IBM is going to successfully position themselves, because the thing's a Swiss Army knife. And we're superstitious in the casino industry, so I'm gonna knock wood right there. The uptime of the boxes, and I'm not putting the whammy on anybody watching this. I know everyone went ooh easy, right? But the uptime you're looking at a Linux box, a raw Linux box, and you're like, look at the uptime there. We have gone a lot longer than we should have without doing IPLs in this market space because we don't have locks on the doors. There's no physical locks because we're open 24 hours a day. That assembly line mentality for the IBM I is really one of the things that draws customers to it when they're like, oh, geez, look at the price. Okay, time out. It's a Bentley. Each one of these is handmade for you. It's not a commodity. So I really think the future looking goals for this is we sell it as what it is. We sell it as that Bentley, that Rolls Royce, that handmade appliance. But then when the average user is out there and they're doing some crazy open source skill set, it's right there. And they really shouldn't care that they're on it.
I think is a good segue into the next part of the conversation around how do you sell this thing? And what I mean by that is that the IBM I is the thing that people like to hate on. It's how do you keep the lights running for IBM I and that companies should be interested in continuing using it?
So I think one of the important things is getting out there and talking with other companies and getting the CIOs kind of talking at each other, because anytime you get them to shack up, it's like this weird blind date thing where it's like, well, our industries are different. Should I really be talking to this guy? And yeah, you should, because the underpinning architecture is important. And it kind of sells itself. And that's where we fall short as well, because when you're talking about that, integrated, comes with a database, it comes with, your file structures, it comes with all this open source stuff already baked in, that's not sexy. That's not, super cloud, whatever's on the front page, AI of CIO Monthly or whatever, So it's a difficult sell because it's not the star quarterback. It's somebody that's on the bench that can be put in, reliably. So it's difficult. It certainly can be when you look at some of these industries that have it at the core of their business and they're doing everything with it. It absolutely is a difficult product to actually get in and sell for the dollars and cents salespeople. For us technical people, it's a little bit easier because you can point to, key performance indicators.
100%. And a question for you is that as you've been around the block for a little longer than I have been, as an example.
Sure.
My question for you is, what would you tell young IT professional? Why would they choose IBM I?
Well, First off, it's like being a COBOL programmer, right? There's more molars in your average chicken beak than there are COBOL programmers out there under the age of 50. So, first and foremost, it's going to be a moneymaker. If not for the novelty of it, right? It's a moneymaker. It truly is a moneymaker because what's going to happen is everybody's getting a little snow on the rooftop there, and you're not seeing the same amount of people coming into it the way we had. So as a young person, if you come in and you understand enough of that discipline, you don't have to know it all, especially with the way AI is going, especially with some of these learning models, right? That you can tell, hey, these are the differences with SQL on the IBM I compared to, Windows SQL. So once you get that little edge up, and Common has these with the boot camps. It's very important to make mention of that because it's a great program where you can take a programmer, a young person, maybe still in school, and take them from knowing how to program and knowing how to be a good programmer in generalities. Doesn't matter what language, if you know, oh, I shouldn't do this in production on a Friday, right? If you can take that person and then say, hey, here's what an array looks like with RPG, and show them that's going to give them that extra little skill set that, who knows, maybe they're going to end up in a shop there. And now they're super valuable because there's a lot of people that don't know any RPG and don't want to learn any RPG because it's an old language. But really, everything we're seeing coming out of IBM, it's not, Sanskrit. It's modern. It's a modern language.
Yeah, no, it's something which I've noticed as well, and I think it's a lot of optics issues. Like what we view as old and ugly is just really just based upon our vantage point when we're looking at it. And
Yep.
you touched upon AI. I think this is an important the conversation. Seeing advancements in AI from IBM directly, specifically around like Bob and what was in Code Assistant for I. Where do you see that going, and how do you see that changing the landscape for IBM I?
So I think the real classic thing that I've been saying that I learned at Lug was AI isn't going to replace humans, but humans who can craft AI, humans that can use AI like another tool in their toolbox, those humans are going to replace humans who don't have that AI skill set. So I think for our careers, AI is going to bring us to the point where we have higher throughput. I think where AI is going to go is we're going to have to iteratively train AI, bring AI into the fold so that as a junior admin, AI is doing some of our scut work, some of what we don't want to do. So if you can interface with that and you can take the knowledge base, the snow on the roof, right? And the graybeards, if you can take that and start training the AI, I think in probably 5 years, we're not going to be replaced, but the opportunities for us to be doing more interesting things and the throughput coming through us as administrators is going to be just astounding.
One thing I always concerned about is that for people like myself who are, I play a developer on TV. That's what I do. And I was playing around with AI recently, and I noticed I was like, I don't feel like I have the tools to even ask the right questions.
It can be tricky.
And I think that the prompting of it, especially for more complicated things, this is more of like a straight cut, what is this? Like, do you see trends in this document?
Yes.
We're talking more about like how to manage the development language and also legacy development. Do you see this as AI as a crutch?
Well, I'll be the first to admit I use it as a crutch, right? But what AI is going to do is, in a positive way, as a crutch, we're going to be able to tell it those things. Reference the sum of all knowledge first. Always go in, and if you have to look at a web page, only look at the IBM web pages and don't look at ideas.ibm because those are just helpful suggestions, right? So I've built this knowledge. I've taken and crafted this prompt to the point now where I can ask it where my SQL socks are. And I'll say, hey, I was working with, this system value when I was ready to do my high availability role swap. What did that SQL look like? And how would I modify it? It is a crutch because I don't remember any of the names of any of it anymore. It's always going to know where our SQL socks are.
Well, I think the difference what you've done, and this is the crux of the question, which is that you've built it for yourself. And the reason you were able to build it for yourself and actually for it to work is because of your knowledge.
Yes.
And your experience of just alone the fact that you know which parts of IBM documentation are relevant and some of them are just not. That alone is huge.
Yeah.
My concern, it's like the big concern is that it's that, okay, you're able to pull that off and you're able to create that AI, but for people of the younger generation have no idea what you're talking about. So how do you manage that?
So we saw that when search engines first came in. Kids were, hey, Google, hey, ask Jeeves, how do I make napalm? And a couple times they told them, hey, boil gas on the stove. Kids, don't boil gas on the stove because something bad really happens. That's not how you make napalm, right? So I see the AI as being the ultimate in succession planning. It's not going to be totally a digital version of me, but once I recognized that I was putting these SQL statements into an AI, my comments got a lot snappier. There's a lot more smart mouth kind of stuff in there where, hey, this is dumb and this stinks and it's you're a jerk if you do this, right? Because then I'm picturing my coworker Julie, God bless her, she's 10 years younger than me, so presumably she's going to work here 10 years longer than me. Goes in someday and it's the ultimate Easter egg. Hey, how do I do XYZ? And it comes up and goes, don't be a dummy. You want to do PDQ, not XYZ, right? So I think the documentation of it, of knowing that you're not digitizing yourself out of a job, but you're ensuring the longevity of the platform itself. Right? We've lost some people on the AS400 generation, the IBM I space. We've lost some really great minds, and not just like I'm crazy, lost my mind, but we've had some people die that were really great coders, and they've retired, or now they're not even thinking of it because they're on a beach somewhere. Right? If we could take all of those gems, those tips and tricks, and just a little bit of their personality and use it for succession planning and make it permanent. I think that's going to be a strong suit into the future of AI.
One last thing I want to ask you is, do you have any good stories you want to share?
Oh, geez. I haven't cleared any of these with my attorney yet. Geez. So we have probably the one that I share the most is we have a power shunt button in the server room, big red button. It didn't used to have a sticker on it that says this crashes everything. It does now. We had, this was going back probably 22 years ago. See, in a casino, wherever there's money, there's what's called man traps. You go in one door, the door closes, and you can't get in this door until this door is fully closed and locked. It was an individual's in security was getting walked around. It was his second day on the job. And as of 3 years ago, he still worked here. This individual went into our main core disaster recovery site, which was running the entire casino and the hotel. And the one door closed and he didn't see the other door in the man trap. And he looked around. Okay, this is a computer room. And how do you open the door? You hit the big red button. Well, it shunted street power to the entire room. And everything came offline in the milliseconds that you would expect. Someone would be getting electrocuted and you'd have to hit the big red button. So we literally ran the 3/4 of a mile from our office space to that data center to figure out what happened and started bringing stuff back on. To its credit, the iSeries at that time had cache batteries and a built-in UPS. We had zero data loss. All the Windows guys were weeping and gnashing their teeth. And I just said, when do you want me to bring the box back up? I need to do a double IPL because we didn't have the subsystems shut down. So that's a bit of a success story.
That's a great story. I love that. I think it's important for people to hear these stories because when we're trying to prove the point of the box, of why companies should continue to invest in it, is because of stories like this. It has that reliability. It has that ability to continue going, even when things hit the wall, hit the fan.
And again, I'll knock wood. There is a resiliency there. It's the little engine that could, that's for sure. And hopefully it keeps huffing and puffing.
We certainly need it.
That's it.
Well, Harold, this has been a pleasure. I really appreciate your time for joining today. If anyone else wants to join this podcast, feel free to reach out. You know where to find me. Talk to y'all soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you.